The Atlantic Charter, among other aims, speaks of securing for all improved labor standards, economic advancement, and social security. The security plan in my report is a plan for giving effect to those last two words, social security, for securing that no one in Britain willing to work while he can is without income sufficient to meet at all times the essential needs of himself and his family. That plan hasn't yet been considered by government or parliament. What I'm speaking about tonight is simply the proposals that I have made. The security plan has three sides to it. It includes first a scheme of all-in social insurance for cash benefits. It includes second a general scheme of children's allowances, both when the responsible parent is earning and when he is not earning. It includes third an all-in scheme of medical treatment of every kind for everybody. I shall not attempt here and now to explain the whole plan to you. I hope that many of you will be able to get hold of the report itself. You'll find it rather a long document, but for general purposes, all that you need to read is Part 1 at the beginning and Part 6 at the end. Both of those parts are quite short, and they deal with matters of general interest to everybody. You needn't go to the other parts except to look up particular points in which you are interested. The main feature of the security plan is an all-in scheme of social insurance. That scheme applies to all citizens, and not only to those who work for employers. It doesn't apply in exactly the same way to all citizens. One can't very well insure a person who hasn't an employer, say a shopkeeper or a farmer, against unemployment, or insure a person who doesn't work for gain at all against losing his earnings through sickness. But for the things which everyone needs, for pensions in old age, funeral expenses, medical treatment, everyone will be insured. And everyone will be insured for these and all the other benefits appropriate to him and his family by a single weekly contribution paid through one insurance stamp. With one exception, the social insurance scheme provides a flat rate of benefit irrespective of the amount of the earnings that have been lost for a flat contribution. The benefit will be the same for unemployment and disability of all kinds, and after a transition period for pensions in retirement. It's designed to be high enough by itself to provide subsistence and to prevent want in all normal cases. And it will last as long as the unemployment or disability lasts without a means test. The one exception to the flat rate principle is that if disability has resulted from an industrial accident or disease, then after 13 weeks, disability benefit will be replaced by an industrial pension proportionate to the earnings lost, but not less than the disability benefit. In addition to unemployment and disability, the scheme provides benefits to meet many other needs, including maternity, widowhood and guardianship of children, funeral expenses, training for new occupations. In regard to old age, the scheme proposes a number of changes. First, it makes pensions universal, applying not only to those who work for employers as at present, but to independent workers and to those who do not work for gain at all. Second, it makes pensions conditional on retirement from work. Third, it makes these retirement pensions adequate for subsistence, equal to unemployment and disability benefit, but it brings them up to that level only gradually, during a transition period of 20 years. During that period, those who need more than they can get as contributory pensions will have their needs met by adequate assistance pensions. Fourth, the scheme enables people who go on working after they reach the minimum retiring age of 65 for men or 60 for women to qualify for pensions above the basic level which they would get if they retired as soon as they reached that age. The object of the scheme isn't to force early retirement, but rather to leave men free to retire when they want to, and to encourage them to go on working while they can. In introducing adequate pensions as of right over a transition period during which the rate of contributory pensions will rise gradually, the plan proposed in my report for Britain follows the precedent of New Zealand. The plan for Britain is based on the contributory principle of giving not free allowances for all from the state, but benefits as of right in virtue of contributions made by the insured persons themselves, as well as by their employers and by the state. For pensions, contributions naturally must be paid over a substantial transition period before the pension age is reached. Of course, one of the points in which everyone is interested is knowing what will be the rates of benefit and of contribution. It isn't possible to be quite definite about that because the benefits are meant to cover the cost of all essentials, and we cannot tell for certain now what food, fuel, clothing and house room are going to cost after the war. But assuming that the cost of living after the war is a little less than it is now, the provisional rate of benefit that I suggest in my report is £2 a week for a man and wife, in unemployment, disability, and as retirement pension. For a single man or woman, or for a man whose wife is also working, the rate will be lower. Where prolonged disability has resulted from an industrial accident, there will be an industrial pension of 2/3 of the earnings, but not less than would have been received for ordinary sickness. Usually it will be a good deal more. To all these benefits, children's allowances, at the average rate of 8 shillings a week for each child, will be added. These allowances will be paid for every child when the responsible parent is on benefit or pension, and to every child but one when the responsible parent is earning. Taking children's allowances into account, a married man with 2 children will get 56 shillings a week without means test so long as unemployment or disability lasts. If he has been incapacitated by an industrial accident or disease, he will get an industrial pension between 56 shillings and 76 shillings a week according to his previous earnings. A widow with 2 children to look after will get 40 shillings a week. A married woman who also works for gain will be able to get paternity benefit of 36 shillings a week for 13 weeks at the time of the birth of a child, in order that she may give up work for that time. This will be in addition to a maternity grant of £4 available for all mothers. To secure these and all the other benefits of the plan, the joint contribution required for an adult man in employment will be 4 3/4 a week from himself and 3 3/4 from his employer, with lower rates for women and young persons. By making these contributions, insured persons in employment will pay about 1/4 of the total value of the cash benefits received by them, exclusive of children's allowances and of national assistance. The other 3/4 of the cash benefits will come from employers and from the state. Children's allowances and national assistance will come wholly from the state. The contributions named above include a payment for full medical service of every kind for the insured person and for all his dependents, at home and in hospital, general, specialist and consultant service, nursing services, dental and ophthalmic treatment, everything that is needed for restoration to health and prevention of disease. Exactly how this medical service should be organized, how doctors should be paid, and how hospitals should be financed and controlled are matters left open in the report for further inquiry. But in one way or other, comprehensive medical treatment and rehabilitation are part of the whole plan. The national minimum for every citizen today should include being well as science applied to prevention and cure of disease can make him or her. Of course, the security plan means a lot of money. It means a security budget for social insurance, children's allowances, medical treatment, and national assistance amounting to nearly £700 million in 1945 and more than £850 million 20 years later. Those are large figures compared with former Treasury budgets. But they are not large figures in relation to the total national income. And the security plan is only a means of redistributing national income so as to put first things first, so as to ensure abolition of want before the enjoyment of comfort. Most of this money is already being spent in other ways, and the total addition to be found from taxes and rates as compared with the cost of the present schemes is at most £86 million in the first year of the scheme. Even that amount may take some finding, but I can't believe that it won't be within our power to find it when the war ends. The plan of my report is a completion of what was begun about 30 years ago when Mr. Lloyd George introduced national health insurance and Mr. Winston Churchill, then President of the Board of Trade, introduced unemployment insurance. The man who led us to victory in the last war was the minister responsible for health insurance. The minister who more than 30 years ago had the courage and imagination to father the scheme of unemployment insurance, a thing then unknown outside Britain, is the man who is leading us to victory in this war. I'd like to see him complete as well the work that he began in social insurance 30 years ago. But that's only my personal hope. What I've been telling you about is simply my proposals to the government. The government aren't committed to them in any way. They've only just seen my report. And you won't expect them to make up their minds. They oughtn't to make up their minds without full consideration. But I hope that the government and Parliament and you will like the security plan when you have all had time to consider it and will adopt it. Having begun myself to work on this problem of social security more than 30 years ago, having lived with it for the past 18 months and discussed it with all the people who know most about it, I believe that this plan, or something rather like it, is what we need. It's the first step, though it is one step only, to turning the words of the Atlantic Charter into deeds